Hey everybody, welcome back to Creating Scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I'm still working on some assets for my John Glenn International Airport. I'm working on the infield. That's where the hotels and parking garages and stuff are between the two sets of runways. All right. And I want to start making road signs coming into the airport. I'm not making all the little tiny caution signs and all that kind of stuff. I'm making the big billboards over the freeway and some speed limit signs and stuff like that, some exit signs. All right, so what we're looking at is a screen capture from a video. There was a guy that has a YouTube channel, and he goes around and videotapes road conditions and road signs and stuff. Anyway, he had a video of driving into John Glenn International Airport, and I said, oh, that's exactly what I need. I need to see those signs. Because you can't get that stuff off of Google Earth Pro. You can, but sometimes they're hard to read. But anyway, this is an actual video. So I got all the signs that lead into the airport, so I can recreate them the way they look. Okay, so I'm going to show you in this episode or this video using Krita. Remember, Krita is a Photoshop clone. Does it do everything Photoshop does? No, to be honest with you, it doesn't. Okay, it does a lot of what it does, but I don't do that really intense photo editing and things like that, so I don't need all the functionality of Krita. Of Photoshop. All right, but if you can afford Photoshop, buy it. But Krita is absolutely free. I also use, matter of fact, I think this is actually GIMP that I have up on the screen. I use GIMP as my conversion program. It's also free. Everybody knows that, but I use it to turn WebPegs into JPEGs and PNGs or PNGs. All right, so I use it a lot for doing my conversions, and then I use Krita for doing the artwork. All right, now Krita is absolutely free. There's a link in the description for Krita. So this is kind of a tutorial on how to use Krita to make a sign. I've made other videos of making signs using Krita, but this one's more specific, all right, to my John Glenn International Airport. Now I'm gonna replicate this sign right here. Now at the bottom, okay, this sign is very large. This mast right here is 30 feet tall. Okay, so this square area is somewhere between 10 and 15 feet. It's a very large sign. All right, but I'm using Krita to just create a texture of the sign. All right, now this small sign is separate. I'm not going to make this part of the sign, but that also brings up another thing. Many of you watch my videos, and I thank you, by the way. You guys are awesome. Thank you for all you subscribers. And you know that I do a lot of basic stuff. All right, I don't do a lot of sim object stuff. I do basic scenery, basic airport stuff. I do learn some sim object stuff, but I'm not smart enough. If you guys want an excellent channel to watch that somebody knows the art of the sim object, I really recommend that you guys go over and subscribe to Federico Pinati's YouTube page, because he does some fantastic stuff. All right, he knows the sim object stuff. So hey, Mumu, make this sign change open and close based on the time of day for me. But anyway, I would like to have this or show us how to do it. There you go. But this would be an animated sign, and it would based on the time of day, this ramp either is open or closed. Okay. Anyway, Federico Pinati channel, he's awesome. Let's get over there and subscribe to him. Okay, show him the love. All right, so we're going to be working on this sign. All right, and we're going to be in Krita. So here I'm Krita, and I'm creating a new image, and it's 4096 by 4096 300 dpi. I'm going to hit create, and it's going to create it. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and what is this one? Okay, that's the first sign that I did. I don't need that. I already have that done. All right, and this one here, yeah, we don't need that one. We're doing the same thing as that one. All right, so we have the new 4096 by 40 or 4K image set up, and now we're going to, in this paint layer, this paint layer 1, we're going to call this base. Now, I may not videotape all of making this sign because you'll get the picture, literally, you'll get the picture of how to make the sign as we go along. So adding new parts of the sign is just like adding other parts of the sign. All right, so we have a base. So I'm going to come down here and choose the square or rectangle select tool, and I'm just going to make a selection around the entire area. Even though I'm outside of the draw area, that's okay. It's only going to paint inside the draw area. All right, so now I have my selection tool. I'm going to come up here, choose my color, and I'm going to choose this forest green or hunter green. The signs are probably a little lighter color than that, but this is okay for this video. So I'm going to hit OK. So that green is my active color, and I'm simply going to come down to the paint bucket, and I'm going to spill some green paint inside that area. All right, then I'm going to go to select, and we're going to deselect. So our mask, that's basically what that is a mask. We're going to remove the mask. Now I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to come over here to the plus, but I'm going to hit the arrow down, and I can add a paint layer, group layer, clone layer, vector layer, filter, fill, or file layer. All right, and other options here. Now, if you are painting, you would add, you know, with fill buckets and things like that, you would simply add a paint layer. All right. However, I am getting ready to make, if you'll look at the picture, I'm getting ready to make this little thin white box inside of our metal sign, and it has chamfered corners. All right. So I want to create a vector. All right, so I'm going to down arrow and create a vector layer. Now the difference between a paint layer and a vector layer really is the paint layer is raster. It's based on pixels. So if you have a curve, the curve is going to be made up of stair steps going around the perimeter. Plus, with a paint layer, you're going to get dithering. That means if I make a black outline, it's going to go black, gray. It's going to be fuzzy around the corners. All right, it's going to dither it out. With a vector layer, it's based on geometry, X, Y, Z kind of stuff. Well, X, Y, because this is not a three-dimensional program like Blender. But it's going to use X and Y coordinates to make the geometry of the shape. Okay, so you can edit that shape. With a paint layer, you can't really edit it. You have to use erasers and erase pixels, and it's kind of, and use brushes to redraw and stuff like that. But with a vector layer, you don't have to do that. You have a little bit more power. All right, so we got a vector layer, and I'm going to change my foreground color back to white, and I'm on the vector layer, so I'm going to choose my rectangle tool, and I'm going to come up to the upper right hand corner. I want to change the size. Okay, first I'm going to change the size. We're going to change this up here. I'm going to type in 40. Okay, for 40 pixels, that's how wide I want my line. Okay, and I don't want to fill it, and I want the outline to be the same color as my foreground. Okay, I can choose brush foreground or background. All right, so I want brush foreground, and I'm going to come up to the upper left hand corner, not exactly in the corner, maybe pretty close. There we go, that's close. And I'm going to drag this down to create my box. Will it be perfect? No, but I'll release, and it draws a vector object around the perimeter. Okay, now if you remember from our prototype, the corners are chamfered. That white box has rounded corners. All right, how to do that is use the select tool and select the object. Bam, there's our square we just drew. And I'm going to use the edit shape tool, which is right here. So click the edit shape, and if you'll notice, in this particular shape, I can change the radius of the corners. All right, so I'm going to, in pixels, I'm going to make it 400. Okay, and then I'm going for both the X and the Y. So there's 400 pixels each, and it rounds the corners. If that's not good enough, I mean, if that's too tight, we can change this. Let's go half that. Okay. All right, if you don't like that, oops, that didn't work. It didn't register my extra 0. There we go. That's a little better. So if we look at our prototype, we have our little round box, right? Okay, now we're gonna get ready to make this clearance part of the sign. Well, let's make the text on the green first. All right, let's do that. So let's minimize. So that says long-term parking. Oh, wait a minute. Let me bring that back up because I want to make sure. Okay, it is not in all caps. All right. And it kind of looks like an Arial font. All right. So I'm going to create a brand new layer. I'm going to layer. Oh, wait a minute. I want to name my vector layer. We'll call this the white box. Okay, that way we know. And let's do a save. I'm going to do a save as, and I'm in my textures, but I'm creating a Krita, so the sim's not going to freak out on me. Okay, I'm creating a Krita file, and we're going to call this is actually sign 2. Okay, so I have a Krita file, so I can come back and make edits to it later if I wanted to. All right, now we're going to go to layer, we're going to go to new, and we're going to add a new paint layer. And we are going to hit the T for text tool, and we are going to make a box of where our text is. Okay, then we get the dialog, and we are going to, I'm going to make this bold for, yeah, let's make it bold for now, and I'm going to type in long term parking. Okay, I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to hit close, and it puts my text. Okay, now I'm going to come down here to the modify layer tool, and now I can simply drag my text like this. Okay, and change the size. So let's look at our prototype, and it kind of looks like that. Now let's see if it looks better not bold. So I click the text tool, and it double click on the text, and it brings up the edit again, and I'll undo the bold, save, close, and that looks a little better. Okay, it's not okay, and then we're going to go to edit layer, and we're just going to drag this a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to do a file save. Now I just want to explain something real quick. All right. Notice that we have a paint layer because I added the paint layer before I added the text, right? Okay. But when I added the text, it adds a vector layer, just like we created for our white box, right? Okay. Except when you create text, it automatically creates it as a vector layer. That's why I was able to resize the font. All right. But you don't really need the paint layer. The reason I did the new paint layer, because if I do 3 texts, okay, let's say I do 3 texts right back to back. If I did not add a paint layer, okay, for every text layer, it automatically adds the text to the previous text. So they get kind of joined together. So if you add a paint layer in between your text, I know it's really goofy, but if you add a paint layer in between every time you do a text layer, then each new text is added to a new vector layer. I know that's complicated, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, all right? But you can right click and you can remove that paint layer after you get it created, okay? So if I hit my text tool and I come up here to the vector layer, okay, I have my text. All right. So that takes care of the long-term parking. All right. Now we have an arrow to make. So to make the arrow, we need to do a couple things. All right. First, we need to turn on over here. Sorry about that. Need to turn on our grid. And we're going to snap to our grid. And I'm going to leave 100 pixels as my grid spacing. All right. So we got a grid on there that's 100 by 100. Now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to add a new vector layer. And then I'm going to choose the polygon tool over here. And everywhere I click, it's going to snap to my grid. So I'm going to click here. All right. And I'm going to come up 2 units to here. I'm going to go over 1 unit. And then I'm going to bring this up to the middle of this unit here. And then I'm going to click over here. And then here. And then down at the beginning, down here. And then click where I started, and it creates this shape, right? Then I can actually adjust that shape. We can turn off snap to grid, and I'm going to use the arrow tool, select my arrow, and I can move that up. Okay, now let's look at the prototype real quick and see if we can almost replicate this shape. All right, so we'll minimize that. And we'll get it close. It won't be perfect. So I'm going to select this handle and I'm going to drag my arrow like this. Okay. To kind of make this shape. Will it be perfect? No, but it will be just fine. All right. Now it goes up to the upper right hand corner. So if you'll hover over one of the corners, you notice that it changes, the icon changes to a rotation. So if I click, then I can take my arrow and I can rotate it to the angle that I want. And then I can move the arrow up where it needs to be. Will it be perfect? No, it'll be close enough. After all, this is a flight simulator, not a highway simulator. Let's look at our prototype. And the bottom of the arrow is the bottom of the main letters, not the G. Okay? And the top is kind of in the middle of the word term. Okay, so I'm going to drag this up, and this corner here looks like it's almost lined up there, and this is almost in the middle there. Okay, so now we have our arrow. So we can turn our grid off because we don't need it now. Okay, and let's take a look at our prototype and let's work on the clearance part the 11 foot 6 inches, no semis allowed. All right, so that's kind of a goldish yellow, goldenrod. All right, so we're going to create a new paint layer. Okay, and you can use vector layers for all of this to get crisp lines if you wanted to. Okay, you won't get that dithering effect, but I'm going to use a paint layer for this particular example. So I'm going to come up to my foreground color and I'm going to change it to this yellow right here. Okay, hex FFB100 for simplicity's sake. Okay, then I'm going to choose the rectangle tool and make sure that it's filled with my foreground color. All right, and no brush or no outline. Okay, and I'm on my new paint layer, and so let's change the name to say clearance, so we know that this box is for our clearance of our sign, our clearance portion. All right, let's take a look at our prototype. And so we're here and here and here and here, just getting an idea of its size. So I'm going to come down here to the lower left hand corner. I'm going to drag that over like this. Okay, may not be perfect, like I said. And now we have the yellow portion of our side. All right, now I want to create a text layer for the words that are on the sign. So I'm going to make my foreground black, and I'm going to do the layer new paint layer to separate my text. Then I'm going to hit my text tool, and I'm going to make a box inside of our yellow, and then it brings up the dialog box for you to type in your text. So let's take a look at the prototype, and it says clearance in all caps, 11 foot 6 inches, and no semis. All right, all caps. All right, so I'm going to change this. I'm going to highlight over this, and I'm going to turn on my cap lock, type in clearance 11 foot dash 6 inches, hit enter, and type in no semis, and I'm going to come over here and hit my center justification. I'm going to click save, close, and it puts my text in my box. And I'm going to choose the layer edit layer tool. I'm going to drag up my text up to here, somewhere around there, and I'm going to resize it by grabbing. Since it's a vector layer, I can do that. Okay, and check our prototype against that. The text is a little narrower than I have it, so we'll bring the bottom up like this. Maybe bring in the sides a skosh, kind of like that, and then drop this down to the center. Check our prototype, and I think that's going to look good enough for now. All right, so now we have the clearance portion of our sign. Now here is where I want to show you the advantages of using a vector layer rather than a paint layer. Okay, now if we look at our prototype, the yellow box and the text, I have my text too far away, or my yellow box isn't close enough to my text, right? But since it's a paint layer, if I choose paint layer and I do the modify layer, I cannot change the size of this yellow box because it's a paint layer. Oh, actually, this paint layer belongs to the text. I'm sorry. Remove that layer. Choose my clearance. Okay. Now, this is what I was talking about, the difference. Now you can change the size, but if I zoom in, notice the dithering that's going on here. It's fuzzy. But if we zoom into the letters, which is a vector layer, the dithering, they're still dithering because it's pixel based, but it's less. Okay. So we make that yellow box a little bigger. And now we're going to select our text. Whoops. I have to select my text. Alright. Then my modify tool here. And let's drag this up. And let's bring the bottom of our clearance up a little bit. Let's bring this up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so that's close enough. Now I could have made this box a vector layer and make it nice. It'll make those outlines a little crisp. Okay. Alright, so we have that. Now let's go to the red sign on top. So the red sign that says red shuttle lot is just a simple red box with a white outline with white letters, right? Okay. So let's minimize that. And let's create a new, and I'm going to do this one with a vector. Alright, so I'm going to add a new vector layer. Okay, and I'm going to rename this one here to clearance, whoops, all caps, clearance, whoops, clearance text. There we go. Alright. This new vector layer will be the red box. Okay, and we're going to come over here and change our foreground color. Well, we're going to swap by hitting these arrows. Change our foreground from the yellow to the red. Alright, that's kind of a maybe just a little bit too bright, so we're going to bring that down a little bit. Okay, and hit OK, and we're going to create our box. So select our rectangle box, and we want our foreground color as our fill, which needs to be red. How come that didn't? Okay, let's try this again. Choose red. And let's bring this down a little bit. I hit cancel and said OK. Hit OK. Now our active color is that red. Alright. So our foreground color is the active color. And our outline, we need to say background color. And we are going to make the size of the white box about the same. It's the same as the white outline for the main sign. So we'll leave it at 40. And I'm going to come over here to the lower left hand corner. I'm going to drag this up like this. Try to make that kind of like that. And we get the red box with the white outline. Let me look at the proto. It's probably a little taller. Alright. So I can go to modify layer. We can drop this down, drop this up, and we can actually select our text. Whoops. Come down here to the other text, which is right there. Modify layer, and we can drop this down a skosh like that, and we can select our arrow, which is this vector layer, and we can drop that down like that. Okay, now we go back up to the red box and we add a paint layer to separate our text so we don't mess anything up. Hit my text tool, make a box inside the red. Our text is white and our sign says red shuttle lot. So I'm going to type in red, shuttle, enter. Whoops. It's red. Is that right? What did it say? Shuttle lot on the same line? Yeah, red shuttle lot. Okay. Red shuttle lot. And that's centered. Hit OK. Save. Close. Then we can go into our layer modifier tool. Move our text here. And drag this there. And we can do a save. Okay. So that kind of gives you the idea of how to make the simple sign, right? Now, to use this in the sim, remember it's 4096. It's a 4K image. All right. To use this in the sim, in Krita, we've been saving it as a Krita file so we can come back and make changes to it. But now, for the sim, we need to file, export, go into your textures directory for your model lib, and save it as a PNG. Okay, so sign 2, it will automatically name the PNG the same as the Krita. All right, so sign2.png. Hit save, and then accept the compression, and now you have a 4K sign image for this particular sign. So if we go into our textures directory in our model lib, which I have already open here, here's the sign I did this morning. And here's our Krita file, and here's our PNG that we would map to the UV on our model when we create the sign model in Blender. So I hope you found this useful on how to use Krita to make signs, and the difference between a paint layer and a vector layer. I hope you would consider subscribing to our channel. I know most of you don't. Thank you for subscribing. Hit the notification for upcoming videos. Hit the like button if you like the video. Remember to check Federico Pinati's YouTube. He makes some great stuff. If you guys feel inclined to support this channel, buymeacoffee.com/myphysicalworld. My Patreon page is patreon.com/myphysicalworld, and I also have a Gumroad page, which is myphysicalworld.gumroad.com, where I upload free models for you guys to use. I'll be adding more and more here in the next few weeks, and I will see you guys on the next video. See you later.